installation of Rebel Rules with Oliver Manufacturing. I'm joined by Kumar and Lauren today. Kumar is the engineering manager at Oliver Manufacturing, and Lauren, make sure I get this correct, customer success and integration manager at Oliver.
Yes.
And welcome, Kumar.
Thank you.
Thanks for sitting down with me today. Great to see you guys. We are definitely living in a different environment where we get to do this virtually. I would much prefer the idea of us sitting down side by side, but we don't get to do that today. So instead, we're doing this virtually. And my first question, Kumar, is to you to ask. Oliver's got a spectacular reputation in the seed industry for quality. Obviously, engineering plays a key role in that. Can you talk to me a little bit about how that happens and why that's so important?
Reputation, as you mentioned, it's really important for any company, any agriculture, industrial manufacturing company, for customer to give their support. Or basically, from engineering perspective, the reputation becomes critical because that's how we innovate. The innovations mostly comes from the customer feedback, customer interaction, and experience from the customer what they have. And my boss always told me that when you want to innovate, the best foremost ideas comes from the customer itself, because they use their product day to day and they know what they want.
So solving customer problems really is what everyone is about, isn't it? And I think that Oliver has a pretty good ear to the ground. Lauren, can you talk a little bit about some of the systems or the process that's in place that allows Oliver to stay in touch with the field and understand what those problems are being encountered are, and then identify ways to fix them?
Yeah, so we recently, as of this year, started having a quarterly meeting, and we actually called it our Field Feedback Absorption Loop. And that's pretty much, I mean, it's the whole thing. Whatever information we get from the field is brought back in-house. We have everyone from people on the production floor, our service engineering, marketing, sales, everyone's in one room and kind of discussing this and what ideas come from, or the problems that arise out in the field. It could be completely different in one area, as in, I don't know, say the Midwestern US. Well, it could be very different for, say, someone down in South America. And so that's one way that we're at least tying everything together. And that's been a great advantage to the rest of us, because that way it's not just one or two people internally that know about it. It's everyone. And if there's a change that has to be made, then that then starts to get implemented.
Right. Kumar, is it useful to hear from the field exactly what's going on and what the problems are?
I would sometimes, it's really hard to believe that there is problems in some of that some of the equipment what we build, but it's always great to hear from the field, because without that feedback loop, we assume that whatever we put out from our perspective is all great and well done. But when you hear that simple things even makes a big difference, even simple feedback saying that, hey, just put this knob, instead of putting this knob here, why don't you put it here? That will speed up the process of how you can adjust the machine, or
Right.
it will be easier for the customer to adjust the machine. So that small details makes a big difference.
Right. I, I think manufacturing obviously has changed a lot over the years, and it used to be dependent on that we had to lean on manufacturers to come up with the ideas. It was internal innovation, and innovation in that form of build it and they will come. That's kind of yesteryear's thinking, isn't it? The focus now is on identifying what the client is looking for and then build to those specs.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's basically the customer. What we say is like, if the customer is not willing to pay for it, don't even think about building it.
Right, right, exactly. Build them what they need and what they want.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very true. Lauren, why did Oliver identify that this adding this layer in, what can you just share with me a little bit the thinking of why that was so important? Why was it important to build in that feedback loop layer?
I think a lot of that came from several of our team members going on trips, whether that be to do a training, whether that be just to meet up with maybe some of our distributors, or going out to actually fix something in the field. And that information was only staying with one person, or if they notice that, well, why haven't we been doing it this way? What's the point of this? This really isn't a great, like Kumar said, you have a knob in one portion. Well, why don't you move it 6 inches further? And that'll make life easier for everyone across the board. So it was mostly to get all the information out of one or two people's heads and put it somewhere for everyone to have access to, and for us to grow that way.
Right. Well said. Well said. Kumar, what are some of those pieces? Like if you could share with me that number one innovation, that piece that you're really seeing as is tracking to make a big impact on the industry. What is that? What direction are we heading in there?
I think if you want to pick one thing out of what we did for last few years, is basically just one comes to my mind is the end race adjustments on our old gravity machines. It's always been really difficult for customer to adjust it. And most of the time, the customer don't even adjust that settings, and they set it up and never use that again. So that feedback from the customer saying, hey, this is really difficult for a customer to adjust this. Why don't we change that so that it's easy to use, and customer will use it, and that will be a benefit for both, like an upgrade for our old missionaries, and also it is an innovation part for our new missionaries that will fix the problem that is in the field. So
Yeah, I don't think you have to be in too many seed cleaning facilities to have heard a story about a gravity table that I'm always told that to operate a gravity table is part art and part science.
yes,
And the more we can build it to be an actual process, the better chance we have of it being able to do what it's supposed to do. I don't know how many times I've seen people that once they see what their gravity table can do, compared to what it was doing, their eyes are wide open. So that kind of an adjustment can really be a game changer for an entire plant, can't it?
yeah, that's correct. If you don't have that main adjustment, you are limited to, for example, there is 10 adjustments or 5 adjustments in the machine. And if you're using only 4 adjustments, you almost lost 20% of your chance of improving the product. So
Something
that's
like
that's 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 what changes, the game changer of how the process works, how the product separates.
exactly. Someone likened it to me one time of taking a 5 speed out onto the highway, but only thinking it only has two gears. When someone shows you three, four, and five, you cannot believe how it can perform. So yeah, I think it's true. Lauren, when you think of your team that's out in the field and that you get to act or be able to build some of that conduit of bringing together that field knowledge into the manufacturing environment, where's that one place, or maybe it's even a story that you can think of where you've seen that example of an idea that came from the field turned into a solution, turned into a success story? Does one come to mind?
Um, Man, as far as I can't think of one off the top of my head as far as innovation, but as far as like service goes, I think it's eye-opening when we have some of our team members from the shop that are 99% here at the factory, but we need some help in the service field, in case we're backed up on something. And they get out to an actual production facility and they're amazed at they don't have the room to work in a place like that. They don't have the room that they have here in the shop to tear down a machine and build it back up. And I think that goes towards the appreciation that we have towards some of our customers, and they're working in harder environments than we are. And they're expected to be able to build a machine back up as well as we can. I also think that shows just how strong our service team is, because half the time they don't know what they're going into. And I've seen some small areas that people have to crawl through just to get some bearings in or to clean something. And I think it's eye-opening, and it's nice to know that, we've got empathy for what people are actually doing out in the field. Not that our shop is like sparkling clean or anything, but we've got elbow room in the shop. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think if I want to add one thing, what Lauren is saying, what your question is like, what made a simple things that came back and we tried to help the customer. So one thing comes to my mind is basically uh, when we go to customer sites, they have different products. For example, they're running from big seeds from corn to small seed like grass seed, and they have some different settings to go through. And one thing came back and told us like simple animation that adding a VFD to a fan settings makes a big difference for their operation of their plant or operation of separation of the uh, corn seed to grass seed. So that just even a simple things as we talked about make a big difference for the customer, and they will be really appreciating. Okay, this is really great that I don't need to less energy. One thing, VFDs will when you're using the grass seed, you usually uses less fan speed. When you're using corn seed, you're using like 90% of your speed of the fan. So with that capability of adding a VFD to a simple machine, that will make a best big difference for the customer.
Right. I think adjustments is one thing, and then automation is another.
Yep.
Kumar, can you speak a little bit to the direction of how automation is fitting into? I mean, we're talking about as if we stick with gravity tables, we're talking about a technology that has been around for a long time.
Yep.
But there certainly have been improvements that have happened, and there have been improvements that have happened across the entire Oliver line. How does automation fit into that?
So automation is a big subject, correct? When you talk about when you talk about phones, when you just simply talk about 5 years ago, the phones are totally different than what we have. So automation is a big subject from our gravity perspective. We, as you talked about, we did improve for the last 5 6 years. It's been changing. One example comes to my mind real quick is like on a Saturday evening, a customer calls that they're having issues in a machine 10 years ago or 5 years ago, I cannot do anything about that. They need to wait until Monday or Tuesday for me to get onto the office and get to my computer and do something about it. But today, the last 6 months ago, it happened that I can get on Saturday, just open my laptop and I can see their screen exactly what they're having issues. And also I can change the settings from my laptop and change the settings on their computer, on their machine. So that's the technology development we're talking about. Is like it is vast. It can go even further. But with this small thing change we did is like basically I can help anybody in the world. It's not just here. It was in New Zealand happen. So it doesn't need to be that I need to fly to New Zealand to help the customer. I can sit on my home and turn on my laptop and I can just do whatever I can do. Whatever I can able to do physically when I was there, I can do it on my laptop.
Right. Right. Which, I mean, that just slides into so many zones in our world right now, right? One, a COVID scenario. Two, who can we actually get to operate this equipment scenario? So there's lots of different places where that ability to have automation plays a big role in our decision making for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Lauren, what is it? I mean, I think in the conversations I've had with you over the time that we've known each other, one of the things that comes across is you like to help people. That be said.
yeah. Yeah.
And so, how does that come across, or how do you get to bring that to life in your day-to-day activities as you're working with all of our clients and potential clients?
Well, we actually had an example of this yesterday. I had a phone call Tuesday afternoon asking if we had any decks on hand because theirs was broken. Come to find out, someone had run over their deck with a semi. So it was not going to work. And they needed to be up and running. It's a facility that runs 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. So um, got a call into them yesterday morning. I said, yeah, we've got a deck for you. And they got in their truck and drove up here. And as soon as they did, they pulled into the facility and I didn't have to ask a single person to help. They just knew a customer was here and there was 5 people around getting that deck loaded into a back of a truck. They got it strapped, they got the guy ready to go and they were on their way and it was easy. Um, that I think that's the biggest thing is when the need arises, we have a team that just knows and you've got a handful of people just willing to jump in without being asked.
Right. A make it happen attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be pretty powerful solution provider. That's for sure.
Mhm.
That's for sure. Kumar, how has COVID adjusted things for your team right now? Has it had a big impact on how things are happening, or what have you seen?
I think as you mentioned about a little bit about the automation, but the other thing from COVID is basically with the computer systems we have, with the sophistication we have, we can work anywhere from the world.
Right.
Even if that's happens for any reason, that I can do the same work what I'm doing right now from my home or from anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter whether it needs to be in US. That's the big advantage we have right now. If it has happened 5 years or 10 years ago, I don't think so. We had the technology there to do that work, and we will be stuck in the dilemma to do whether to go work or whether it's going to be risk for your health.
Right.
So that's the big difference. And the other thing we ran into is since with the Zoom and every other technology we have, we can collaborate easily with anything we can because we can get on Zoom within seconds even and then show that, hey, this is the part. What do you think about this? This is what I am looking at. Can you give your suggestion how to change it? Or looks like what you are expecting to get out. So that kind of collaboration is really easy for us to get on. I don't. I would not disagree that still hands-on and face-to-face conversation is really important. That we may have to we may need to get used to this new technology. But when we go back to this out of this COVID, probably that will normally we'll have a both combined with the technology. And since we experience the technology now, we can use both efficiently
Exactly.
going forward.
I think we can have both. I think you're exactly right. Lauren, when you look at and Kumar, I'm going to ask you the exact same question. I want to know from both of you when you guys look at what's coming down the pipe, what things are we're working on, what things are being developed, what changes are coming. It's easy to point out things that are scary, things that are hard, things that are difficult. But what's something that we can point to and go, I am super excited about that. I am super excited about how that's going to go. Is there anything that comes to mind? Which of you would like to go first?
Mm.
I can go first if you want to
All
think.
right, go ahead, Kumar.
All yours, Kumar.
I think if I want to get excited about one thing or two things that is coming to our from engineering perspective, from Oliver perspective, is we are working on some modular size designs that is really taking the, as we talked about, the innovation to the next level. So right now, this one is there is boundaries within the countries. Right now, we don't even have boundaries. The reason why I'm saying no boundaries because we are working with a company in India that was trying to innovate and trying to collaborate and come up with a best modular size solution for us. So this new thing that is I was really excited about, though it is still in the stages of design and phase, we had a lot of from sales perspective, they already had a lot of interest and a lot of support from their perspective to move forward with this. So that's one thing I'm really excited about going to 2020 and 2021.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Lauren, what do you think?
Um, as far as like a big thing coming, I don't have something that's just gonna wow, kind of like what Kumar said, but um, we are slowly moving towards getting everything digitized. I mean, we are a 90-year-old company. Well, guess what? 80 of those years we didn't. Okay, I wouldn't say 80. I mean, when did we go digital, Kumar? Maybe 2004,
Yeah,
2005, maybe.
there, there is some
So
drawing still in the field that is
yeah,
there.
we've got machines that are still running from the 1950s in the field, and guess where all that information is? It's in a physical folder
Yeah.
in our file room. So I think just something that I am personally looking forward to, that is just a very slow transition, but having all of our old machine information within our digital system. Not only that, but I'm kind of the go-to person here in the office. Our main three regional territory managers aren't in the office. One of them's in South America. So he can't physically get his hands on that information. And so moving all of that towards getting all of it digitized and everything is, and not just machines itself, but how to put things together. I know I've probably annoyed Kumar more than I should, but hey, where are the instructions for this? Where can I find this? He's got something in his office that I call the Bible that he always pulls out and he references. I'm like, well, where can I get that? How come I don't have access to that? Um, but yeah, getting everything onto our system, it's a very slow process, but slowly but surely it's been moving that way. And that is helping our team in the field, which is really nice.
Awesome. Now, Lauren, is there any particular problem or issue that you're hearing from the field right now that kind of goes across multiple areas, like a consistent issue that people are seeing as it relates to specifically to the seed industry?
Yeah, I guess with COVID, if we're going to relate everything back to that right now, people are getting sick, and the people that have been running these machines for a long time haven't taught anyone how to do that. I remember a very specific customer. I had a phone call with them, and this was several months ago, but they said our person that runs this machine, they're the only ones that run it, and they're sick and they are in the hospital for a very long time. And we need someone here tomorrow to come train us because we don't know what we're doing. That person would set the machine and say, don't touch it. And that's happened more than on one occasion. I know that our service tech, Dave, actually, he is adding another trip to where he's going here in the next week or two because the person that was going to do the service, they can't do it. They got pulled away, and that's people who know how to fix them and how to run the machines. That's where they're having a hard time, which then goes into what Kumar said with our automation, and we're starting to do our platinum retrofits, which I just heard from someone earlier this week. I've seen it run, and I can see that you can save recipes, and that's what I want.
Right.
Because there's production facilities that are doing more than just corn,
Yeah.
or soybeans or grass seed. They're running multiples, so they need that.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's really a two-phase potential solution there, right? That I heard you talk about. One was the idea of creating enhanced automation, and two is that you have a service department that really can indeed help to make those pieces happen
Mhm,
in pretty short order, and that they are out on the road, they are doing it safely, they are following all the protocols,
mhm.
but that they are able to come to their facility and help them make these pieces happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Kumar, is there anything you're hearing that's kind of a specific takeaway that is important for your team?
Yeah, I think when she mentioned about automation or innovation of the missionaries, as we mentioned previously, the takeaway is basically lesser human interaction to the missionaries and make it more that it can we're not to the point that the machine will think itself and separate itself. That is the goal, probably 5 years, 10 years from now. But until that, there is the human touch and human interaction that needs to happen. And with this technology and innovation, we can do that with without being in the facility. And she mentioned that even we can go there and somebody like Dave means our service guys can fix the machine, and if we can train it, if he's done with the machine, we can train it from here. You don't need to be in the facilities. That's the takeaway we are getting is like, if this is going to expand this COVID situation, or if something else comes from next 2 years, from 3 years, I don't know what that is. So we want to expand this support and automation to the next level. That's what the takeaway, what I would take from this experience, what we had for the last 1.5 years or 1 year.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. With when challenges come up, some people wither, and some companies come forward and come up with innovative solutions on how to make it happen. And it's quite obvious that you guys have absolutely done that to create some of those solutions that help people in these what I will call crazy times. So kudos to Oliver. Kudos for the two of you for sharing with us today, and thanks very much for sitting down and having a chat with me.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, this was nice. Thanks, Shawn.